feel bad, did it? It made you feel. You're allergic to sage, okay. But in general, unless you're allergic to sage, the ceremony will start a reconnection that feels not like superficially good, but deeply good. So I was just talking with this wonderful woman here about the fact that at our state legislature, they're open now to water. They've been open because of the lack of water, but they're still open to the element of water. And, oh, we're passing a basket. So, let your money flow like water.
Okay.
Just
pass it.
The beauty of that is that we don't have to talk conceptually now, because water's starting to speak over there. Water is making itself known in a way that I've never seen at our state legislature. It's not like they're opening the session with smudging and with prayers yet, or the committees, but they're not far from that. And the beautiful thing about seeing water speak over there is that it's grounding a lot of the discussions out so that we can open discussions now in ways we never have about how bad fracking is for the water in New Mexico, about how bad burning coal is for the water in New Mexico. That said, we'll keep hope alive that way, and we will let these four people from I.A.I.A. speak and give their. I was thinking also that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, you know, they were made up. They were made up in a way that we carried this forward for a long time, but they were made up, and now it's time to create deeper documents, deeper expressions of where we're at. So I also want to say that Michael-Ani, I know he's been passing around data, and his data was just picked up by Representative Carl Trujillo. It was introduced in a House joint memorial, and it passed on the House floor unanimously. So I want to give a round of applause to Mike, because it hasn't been that easy. But that's how deeply they're becoming aware of water. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael-Ani, who will introduce our speakers, and then we'll go from there. Thanks very much. Michael.
How many people, by a show of hands, have been out to the I.A.I.A. campus? Awesome. It's an amazing place. And when I've been trying to work on these water issues with the state legislatures and others, I get strength from the I.A.I.A. campus. I was out there during this legislative session 2 different times. And I sat over on the east side of the Sacred Circle, right in the middle of the campus, looking out towards the I.A.I.A. Mountains. And had conversations asking for the strength to take this where it needs to go and to encourage all of our legislators to start paying attention. Last Tuesday, one thing I would like to mention, David and I met with a number of the senators as well, not just on the House side, but 5 very important senators. Our own Senator Peter Wood and Senator John Arthur Smith, who's the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. And David and I testified prior before that committee. And John Arthur Smith, a conservative gentleman from southern New Mexico, was standing there side by side with Peter Wood before the television cameras and the newspaper reporters all across the state of New Mexico. And they said water is our #1 issue within the state of New Mexico. That doesn't just happen. And I have to go back out to I.A.I.A. now because I have to say a prayer of thanks, because that's the kind of stuff that is happening. I had an opportunity last April, almost a year ago, to go to a program conducted by I.A.I.A. It's called Climate Justice, Indigenous Solutions. And I had an opportunity to meet 3. I just met Russell today, so he's a new person for me, but I had the opportunity to meet 3 of our speakers. And there's a 4th speaker that I'm going to talk about first, who's not here, Benita Rickers, before I introduce the speakers that are here. And Benita Rickers and Monica Gutierrez read their Declaration of Interdependence towards the end of the conference I was telling you about. And it moved me so much that I went up afterwards and talked to Benita and asked her if I could have a copy of what they had just read. And she said, here, I'll give you this one. And it was the one that's highlighted. Words that she read, and then the blank spots or the non-highlighted area were Monica read. And when she was giving me her original, it was read before all those people. I says, I'll only accept it if you'll sign it. And that is one of my prized treasures that I have in my life, that original. And I look at it all the time. It's in my office. I look at it all the time. It's so meaningful to me. And what I would like to do now is to introduce these speakers, because it's about them. And it's about the young people. And look around us. You know, we can make a difference, but it's really about our young people. These young people, and even the generations yet to come. How we educate them to be connected to our natural world through arts, through environmental experiential learning, all those methodologies. First, I'd like to introduce Ann Philmeyer. She's the Dean at I.A.I.A. Annie Haven-McDonald. She is the Director of the Student Sustainability Leadership Program at I.A.I.A. Monica Gutierrez, a student there, and very active. She's going out into the world already. Last summer, she'll probably tell you about it, but she went out and worked within the National Park Service, and she'll tell you about that. And the gentleman that I just met today, and his name is Russell, and each of them will tell you a little bit about themselves and about what's going on at I.A.I.A. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
We're going to start with the students reading the declaration so that you can all hear.
We find this truth to be self-evident, that we and the earth are interdependent, that our Mother Earth has furnished us with livelihood, and many have taken her gifts and left her behind, that we have hurt her and all beings with our neglect.
We recognize that we need to acknowledge Mother Earth's right to our respect and our reverence.
We recognize the rights of plants and animals to our respect and reverence, because they are our older brothers and sisters.
We recognize that we all contribute to the balance of life, that all beings in this miraculous world are valuable and worthy of care and protection.
We recognize that we, as humans, need to be responsible. We need to change here so that we may inspire change when we go elsewhere.
We recognize that we need to let go of the things that hurt Mother Earth and her children and begin to love, respect, and care for our family again.
We vow to go outside, to walk, to commune, to play, to be present, and to give thanks.
We vow to turn off the lights and faucets, to reduce, reuse, recycle, to be responsible. We vow to make our change, our own commitment, our own promise to Mother Earth. That intention will grow with this garden, will be nourished by the earth like this garden, and will bring beauty and kindness back to the earth like this garden.
This declaration was written by Benita Rose Vickers. This is essentially her brainchild, and how this came about was during the Art of Change conference last spring. We got the idea to conclude the conference by making seed paper, and it had all these indigenous wildflower seeds embedded in it. And so everyone got a piece of it, and they wrote a little note, their own statement on how they would contribute to rejuvenating the earth and how to uphold that promise. And we have a small spot called the Houses Garden, and we plowed out this small little area. I think it was about like 10 by 8 or so. And we read the Declaration of Interdependence, and then everyone planted their seed paper in the hopes that their commitments would grow with the garden. So that's why that last paragraph says, with this garden. But that's the little background story behind it.
I want to thank Seth and Greenfire Times. They published the whole Interdependence with Mother Earth's Declaration in their issue last August. So if you have one of these, Seth probably brought some, and maybe you can pick one up so you can have a copy of it as well. As Michael said, and thank you for inviting us, Michael, I'm Ann Philmeyer. I'm the Dean at I.A.I.A. I came in 2005, moved to Santa Fe to take the position and work with this really unique institution. We had our 50th year last year, and one of our board members is here, Joanne Balzer. Thanks for coming this morning, Joanne.
My pleasure.
And but I want to talk a little bit. Today's focus is sustainability, and what are we up against, and why does it matter? And I think we have already sort of invoked that there are future generations, and I think they're going to look back at this time and say, why didn't they do more? What took them so long? What was the hesitation? Why didn't they understand what was at stake? Why did they go on living, even knowing what we know about the ramifications? But I think change is hard, right? So it's not unlike another time in American history that I sometimes think about, and I think about what happened when people tried to advance change in a condition at the time was normal, but to us today looks outrageous. And what I'm talking about is slavery. At one time in this country, that was a practice that was normalized. And it took tremendous effort to change that practice, to make that practice outrageous, unacceptable. We're in a similar time because things, the way we use resources, the way we live, is normal for us. But we don't really consider deeply the cost to ourselves, to the future. It's not just a physical cost in terms of pollution, which we experience, or a physical cost in terms of illness caused by environmental contamination, which we experience, or a situation of lack and suffering, which we're aware of. There's also a psychological and a spiritual and moral crisis, if you will. And it's conceptual, because we use these resources. What's the notion behind that use? The notion is that these resources, nature is resource, and resource is there for us to use as we want. But there's a fundamentally different idea, a different concept, and that's the idea that the beautiful declaration articulates. And that idea says, nature is not resource, nature is source. And when we shift just that small word in our minds, and we understand that as source, we are completely dependent upon the water, the soil, the air, the plants, the animals. And in that framework, deeply held by many, many indigenous cultures, human beings are not the pinnacle of creation, but we're the babies. We're the youngest. The rocks precede us. The mineral world is older. The soils are older. The plants are older, elders. The animals are elders. And we are furless, fangless, helpless little babies. And we would not survive if the generosity, the kindness, the compassion, the capacity of air, water, soil, plant, animal to support us, to have our flesh, our clothes, our shelter, our lives. So when we switch and understand nature as source, now we've entered a sacred obligation, not just to take the resource as we want, but to honor the source and ask permission to use as a reciprocal relationship, as an honoring, as a way of being with and not being over. And even, simple other words we use. We say, I live on the earth, which is fundamentally incorrect, because in fact we live in the earth, because the atmosphere is the breath of the soil. And the scientists now tell us there's intelligence in the system. So it's an active living exchange of water, air, soil. It's a constant, and we are inside of it. We are born of it. And if you take us out of the atmosphere, even for a moment, we do not survive. That's our dependency. That's our situation. That's our truth that we don't understand. Like a fish out of the water, not going to make it. Humans out of the atmosphere. So what does that actually make us? We could consider ourselves deep air, animals. And that would be more truthful. So there's a lot of beautiful conceptual work to understand our truth and our real relationship. And from there, how do we live? How should we live in relationship? So this is kind of the big picture. And each of us has come to it in our own ways. And I was sort of first really introduced, and I want to give this honor. But when I was about the age of Russell and Monica, I had the fortune of reading an Anishinaabe Mashkiki play, which is in the Ojibwe language, translates Ojibwe medicine woman, Hiwe Dino. And I was about 19, and I was curious. I was already interested in plants as medicine, and she took me under her wing, and she gave me the opportunity to deeply engage with this other way of understanding. And that, I worked with her for 20 years until she passed in 2000. Came to I.A.I.A. Partly that was my training and preparation to come here and do the work at school, where we're really working very slowly, just like Change Anywhere. I.A.I.A. is a mainstream institution in so many ways, but philosophically, we're trying to be more congruent with our beliefs. So there's not a disconnect like we all struggle with between what we believe and how we live. And that's some of the work that the students and Annie have taken the lead on. So Annie's a faculty member, but she's also our sustainability coordinator, which was a position we created about 2 years ago. So I want to hand the mic to her and let her talk to you about some of the things we're starting to do there to make this change and to shift our lives at the school to be more in harmony with the way we believe we should be living in our relationships to Mother Earth and all beings.
Hi, I'm Annie, and I want to say thank you so much for inviting us here. And I'm really grateful to work at I.A.I.A. I learned so much by being there, and from these guys and all the other students that I work with. And the Student Sustainability Leadership Program started a few years ago, and it really is a collaboration between me and these student leaders. We come up with visions together and projects together, and I just help facilitate their good ideas and hard work. And I wanted to read the mission statement for this program that we came up with together. So the Student Sustainability Leadership Program at I.A.I.A. cultivates environmentally conscious student leaders through hands-on learning, community engagement, and education in order to make I.A.I.A. a carbon-neutral campus, support cultures, and protect the earth. So that points to a lot of the big picture of what we're trying to do. And the president of I.A.I.A., Dr. Martin, signed the ACU PCC, which is the American College and University President Climate Commitment. So it's a group of higher education institutions that made a pledge to make a timeline for transition to make their campuses carbon neutral, and that we take climate change seriously, and that we pledge to make real change to address it as leaders, as in education, and that we also pledge to make climate change education part of the experience for all students. So we are working on that at I.A.I.A., and that's a big project. This year is coming up with that plan for transitioning I.A.I.A. to more sustainability and carbon neutrality. And we just started a new course this year called Global Climate Justice, Indigenous Perspectives. That's a new general education course. So all students will now take that, have a menu of required courses, and that's one of them. So that's the start of kind of integrating climate change education, and specifically through Indigenous perspectives and social justice perspectives at I.A.I.A. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the SSL, Student Sustainability Leadership Program, and I'll turn it over to Monica and Russell. We held a conference last spring called The Art of Change, Climate Justice and Indigenous Solutions, and that was a big project for us, and I think it began a dialogue that we want to continue, that I.A.I.A. is a really unique place because it's a multi-tribal college focused on art, and so there's over 80 tribes represented. a lot of cultural knowledge that's brought into the school. And so we wanted to address climate change and sustainability through the perspective that's unique at I.A.I.A. So we focused that conference, and we're kind of building upon that in our sustainability program on 4 things. One was culture and stories, so the cultural knowledge of Native peoples, creative communication, the power of art to create change, skills and technology, so renewable energy and hands-on skills to create the changes we need. And then the final thing was tools for change, activist strategies, and community engagement. So those were the 4 themes that ran throughout the conference, and we're building on those as we build our sustainability vision and program at I.A.I.A. And one of the main questions that we asked at the conference, and I think that we want to ask at I.A.I.A. as we build this vision, is what does it mean to be a culture based on responsibility, which is Indigenous cultures have this framework, a culture based on responsibility versus a culture based on rights, which I think we have in Western culture, that inheritance of rights versus responsibility. So what are the stories, values, and perspectives that Native peoples offer in the climate justice movement? Okay, so some of the other projects we're working on, I think I'll let these guys talk about those projects that we're working on now for our program and for our campus. And then if you guys want me to add anything, I can come back. But I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about the program and what we're working on now.
I just think it may be a little better. See how that sounds.
Test. Hello, everyone. I'm Russell Fry. This is my 3rd year at the Institute of American Indian Arts. I'm focusing on sculpture and printmaking. But I started SSL about 3 semesters ago, and since then it has been an eye-opening experience. Before I came to I.A.I.A., I think I was never the person to recycle or go easy on the water. I can always remember my dad telling me in high school, 5-minute shower, that's all you get. So in some aspects, I was raised to, watch turning off the lights, watch your water use. But I think since I've been at I.A.I.A., it's opened so many more doors for me. I believe that the system is set up so that we're not going to use less water. We're not going to use less energy. So being sustainable in a lot of ways is a lot of work. It takes work to recycle. It takes work to ride your bicycle instead of driving your car. My grandmother went to the old I.A.I.A. boarding school back in the 50s. So to be going to this institution today, I think is mind-blowing. I feel that I'm blessed to still be carrying on this tradition of education at I.A.I.A. And I believe that the only way we're going to continue to do this is through changing our ways of life to create more sustainable lifestyles. And some of the ways we're doing that and helping I.A.I.A. and the student body, we're focusing on composting, recycling. We plant gardens across campus. One of the major ways we're trying to build awareness on recycling and our waste output, we're conducting, this is a relatively new campaign, but we're conducting a waste stream audit at our campus. We are going around campus and collecting trash containers and recycle stations and we're dumping them out at our dance circle. We have a giant dance circle at our campus. But we're sorting this trash, and we're determining whether recycle stations are being used for recyclables, or if waste stations are being used for recycle stations. And we're actually really surprised by the results. Some areas that could use recycle stations don't have them. And areas where there are recycle stations, people are throwing materials in them that aren't recyclable, or to them they may think they're recyclable. So as leaders for SSL, I think it's our responsibility to educate the school on this mission. Last semester, Bonita Rickers started the composting. We took straw bales and created about a 10 by 15 foot area, two straw bales high, and we're now taking and gathering all the scraps from our cafeteria and taking them over there to be composted. Yeah, and to feed the worms. We have red wigglies. So through these practices, we're setting the foundation for future generations to come, future students, so that one day even my grandchildren will have the opportunity to enjoy I.A.I.A. and contribute to a sustainable campus.
Hello. Let's see. I joined SSL back in fall of 2011. It was already going for a semester prior to that, and Annie kind of helped push me into that. What got me going was when you first come into I.A.I.A. as a freshman, you're required to take a freshman seminar class. And in that class, Annie was my teacher. And we made some cob benches that are now in the house's garden today. And I just remember just having a blast. It's November, shoes off, playing in the mud, mixing mud and straw. But that is what really inspired me. And with hands-on projects like that, it really motivated me to join the group. And in the past, last spring, we made a cob oven, an Orno, out there in the house's garden. And we've been maintaining the gardens. That was probably one of the first fundamental projects we've done. The Alan Hauser Garden, named for a sculpture in that garden, has really taken off. Right now, we're just waiting until springtime to plant some more seeds, but I can't wait for that to start up. Some projects I've done is I've helped maintain the nature trail that goes around campus. It starts at the USDA demonstration garden and goes all the way around campus to the Hogan. And I've done maintenance and cleanup, and I'm actually looking at ideas for repurposing pallets and making benches and chairs out there because there's some really nice, quiet, scenic spots. Another really big project we have going on right now is another SSL leader. Her name is Therese Linston, and she's working with another student, Kevin Locke. And they have an education and awareness committee going on, and they're actually going to different clubs and committees around campus and trying to get them to integrate a more sustainability purpose in their work, like with clubs using compostable or reusable dinnerware. They sell items. Recently, they went to the Intertribal Ceremonial Council Committee. That's how it is. Excuse me. And they're actually getting them to use reusable dinnerware instead of throwaway plates. So less landfill waste that goes in. So that's one big step. And they're actually talking with facilities to use green cleaning products instead of fresh chemicals. I know faculty Annie, member that Annie works with, has to leave because sometimes the chemicals irritate him. So those are some small, big steps we're making. Everything happens slowly but surely. And let's see, there's a couple other trash bash. About every November in the fall semester, we have this thing called Trash Bash, Fashion and Art Show. It originally was Benita's and another student, Sasha LaPointe. It was their idea. And then I came on to SSL and we kind of made it happen. And it's a fashion show and art show, and we're inspiring students to make products from recycled goods. Using no CFCs or harmful pollutants like spray paint. I mean, we do get a couple submissions like that, but the thought is there. And we try to encourage it's more than just buying water bottles, drinking them, and then using it for artwork. It's about reducing your waste as well. So being more conscious of your materials and not just going out and buying it like trash bags for an outfit. We've had a big hit. The first one was huge. I'd never seen the auditorium that packed before. And then it's a 2-day event. Usually we have a documentary screening and the art show on a Friday, and then the Saturday is the fashion show. And we just had our second one last November. And I look forward to doing the next one. So can't wait to see what comes up next. And then I think that's about it. Yeah.
A few things at the institution-wide level, like every higher education or organization, we have a master plan, and we also have a particular set of strategic themes. And each one of the president's cabinet members has to do particular things to advance those themes. So theme number 1 in our next plan, Plan 2017, is enhancing sustainability. So under that, there are initiatives across the campus to, for example, reduce paper use, reduce printing, all these kinds of business aspects, purchase only recycled paper. So, we're in the process of changing all of our forms, and those of you who have ever been administrators in higher education, you can imagine how many forms we process, drop ad, registration. So we're doing, learning to do everything electronically. We're transitioning into this other way of doing daily business as part of enhancing sustainability. The other thing, and Annie mentioned it, but we have an initiative to have sustainability across the curriculum. Every major program has looked at the issue of sustainability and figured out how does it fit. So, for example, Creative Writing created a program on environmental literature. And what are the writers and poets saying about these issues? And there are many very vocal, passionate writers addressing this from fiction and nonfiction and poetry and screenplays. So students investigating environmental literature. The Studio Arts program has looked at non-toxic materials. So how, and this is an issue, we don't use any oil-based paints or inks anymore. And some students are like, well, what about my right to use paints and ink, oil-based, because it's beautiful, it's glossy, it's, got qualities that I like. But we're taking a stand because, of course, to clean up oil-based paints and inks, you're dealing with volatile organic compounds, you're exposing people, you're not teaching the students clearly what the consequences are of those materials to their own health, the health of their families if they work in their homes as artists, and also into the waste stream when you're dealing with that kind of material. So every academic program has figured this out in different ways. The Jewelry Metals program a year ago sponsored a recycled metals jewelry making competition. So all of us went into our jewelry boxes and donated our broken jewelry, and they melted it down and remade new jewelry rather than mining jewelry, mining the metals, and also understanding if you work in metals, what is your responsibility to knowing the source of the metal? Where is it coming from in the earth, the copper or the gold or the silver? And what are the consequences of that mining operation? Not just go to the store, go to Artisans and buy a sheet of copper, but understand the consequences. Where is it from? What is that material about? And can you use recycled metals? And they, all of us had, and I had as well, a bunch of broken jewelry just sitting in a pile, and it was great for it to become something new and for the students to have that whole education. So this is, as I said, we're taking, I love what you said, Monica, big, small steps. That's what it's about for all of us, small, big. and moving ahead in every academic discipline we have on campus in very specific ways for the students at least to learn to question the source of the material if they're artists, or the practices in their profession. We have museum studies also on the campus looking at their practices in that field. So looking across every field, every endeavor, and understanding the consequences, the relationship, what's been made invisible to us as consumers, because it's so easy to just go buy the thing that we don't think what's behind that purchase, what goes into making that material, and what is my role as an artist or creative person engaging these materials to create my message or to create my inspiration. So this is kind of a large project, but we're very committed to it, and we'll continue working on it and reporting out to the community or other higher ed institutions and our partners what we're doing and why we're doing it, just to continue working in this direction. So I think we'll open it up to questions.
Question? I'll borrow one. Here, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask my own. The first question I have for the four of you is, would you be our guest for lunch after the show? So that's a simple question. The second one, for Monica and Russell, do you guys know this guy, Gary Liss, who's going to be presenting Zero Waste at the Santa Fe Community College Thursday and Friday? Would you like to attend that? It's part of the carbon economy. He's an expert on, we interviewed him on our radio show, and he's really, really good. So he's going to give a Thursday night talk, Friday night a whole day. Would that be something you guys could do? And I'll do the scholarship so you can attend. Great. Third question, would you be on our radio show at some point so we can talk about this? Because what you have to say is so good. Okay, great. It's nice to be the moderator. Fourth, I gave Michael his due, and I overlooked Ethan, who's here, Ethan Gnauer, who helped organize the, were people here at the Billion Rising, the event on, it was a great event at the Capitol, the anti-violence against women that Eve Ensler got going all around the globe. And Ethan does some great Idle No More work, which comes out of the Canadian Indigenous response to the destruction of the earth. So the other thing is that the conference about water crisis, there's a writer named John Fleck. He's the journal science writer. He's front page. He goes all over the state. I introduced him to Michael, and they had a great talk. And then I said, and John, this is Ethan Gnauer, and he said, oh yeah, I follow you on Twitter. So it's good to know that social media does work. Okay. Sorry, Joe.
No
Here's the mic.
Two things you said. Exciting. There's no question about it. We're all on the same planet. The things that triggered my interest were the tools for change that you mentioned and social activism. What our brothers and sisters are doing, Idle No More. I had the privilege of participating in that demonstration before the Roundhouse, and visiting with Benny Shendo, who was a Native American Pemis Pueblo. So now's the time, guys. We're the ancestors, as you probably know, we've been waiting for. And what triggers this to me is a statement that I heard a Native elder say, that we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And that gives me a hell of a chill, excuse my French, because that's what it's all about. That says it in a nutshell. So I'd like to hear more about what the school is getting involved with social activism, and the Peltier thing comes to mind, but we won't go into the politics of it. So what's going on in that area of social activism?
We have students and faculty from Canada, and some of them have taken the leadership role, and so we've had a couple of Idle No More events on campus, and they're doing also education around the issues. So that's kind of an ongoing, whatever issue might be relevant, student or faculty kind of pop up in those roles. And I know it was great to see how many hands went up, because sometimes people say to us about the campus, you're so far away. You're way out there. And I'm like, come on, people. Sure. Guess what? We finally got the bus. We're on the bus route now. This took us years, but we're on the bus route. So you can take the bus to campus. So there are, that kind of political organizing is really ongoing. Whether or not it gets into the media, it's ongoing on campus. Those kinds of activities.
Great. Questions?
I have something.
Oh, here, let me go right here first.
He asked a little bit about that there's going to be an event at the Santa Fe Community College, and it kind of speaks to my question about what the other colleges and universities are doing in Santa Fe or even in greater northern New Mexico. And do you communicate with them, because we all know the whole is greater than the sum of the parts?
Yeah, actually this past Tuesday in class, this lady named Caitlin Jennings, she reached out to me via email because she heard about this event at Collective Works. And she works with the Sustainable Santa Fe Commission. And she's actually working with networking and she's talked to St. John's College, the community college, and I.A.I.A, and getting us all together, all the sustainability groups, to network and see what we can do to help one another on our projects.
So that's going to be happening?
Yeah, that's in the process.
Okay.
Joseph, who does the coffee for our programs, handed me a note on, do you want to save water immediately? He said North America uses 130 billion paper cups per year. Making the cups requires 50 million trees and 33 billion gallons of water. Each time you bring your own coffee cup here to Collective Works for our Sunday morning programs, you will help save over 3 cups of water. And if everyone from Journey did this on a regular basis, he said this is one drop in a dry ocean that will become a larger splash. And I thought that was pretty neat. And then also somebody suggested we don't use swamp coolers anymore. You can save a lot of water if you don't use swamp coolers. Apparently there's a bill being written about that. So something to think about and get behind. And then on behalf of the Journey program planning group, from our donations, we would like to give $100 to the sustainability program at I.A.I.A.
You save a lot of water if you stop fracking and stop burning coal, too. Are you next?
I think she was.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Rainey, and this has been delightful, exciting. I spoke with Monica before you began, and I asked her if she'd be interested in going to democracy school. I would love to see her do that. Secondly, what about high schools? Are you involved at all with any of the high schools? And the best way for them to learn is from one another and young people, I think. So is that a possibility to reach out to San Jose High, St. Mike's?
I'll let Monica speak to it. I just know one thing that Bonita had envisioned with the worm composting system was once we really get it going, that the student sustainability leaders, then we share the castings with high schools, and you guys educate the high schools about how to do a worm composting system. And we're going to work with Santa Fe High and the Indian School.
And then I just do a partnership. You can get college credits in high school. And I know at Wallatoa High, they have some classes, and when the Primitive Edge Gallery puts on some shows, the students will enter their art pieces. And there's actually a faculty member in our past Trash Bash event this past November. He made some awesome sculptures out of reusable gloves. And so that's one way they contribute. We're still waiting for more outreach with that. But I know Wallatoa High School for sure has contributed.
We teach at the Native American Community Academy, which is a high school in Albuquerque. We teach at Bernalillo Public Schools. We teach at Santa Fe Indian School. We have partnerships with Santa Fe Public Schools. So we're teaching dual credit. We have 125 dual credit high school students this semester. So we're in the high schools in that way. But to partnership with them around sustainability, I think the vision there is once we really work out something that we can say, here's a model that we did and this is how we did it. So that can come around because we already have those relationships. We also, right across the street from us is the Academy for Technology and the Classics. So we do joint programming with them because they're literally right across the street from us out there, way out there. So we're very interested in partnering and as Monica said, sometimes, and they all get all of our emails. You know, when I send out an email to students, all of those high school students that are enrolled with us get that same email. And so that's how they sometimes know about an exhibit on campus. When I send an email to all faculty, those faculty that teach in the high schools for us get those emails. So partly it's how much do they want to partner. But more and more they're showing up on campus, participating in exhibits, seeing what the things like the Trash Bash, which they could do the same event on at their high school. So we're hoping to kind of plant seeds by example.
Yeah, I have an invitation. The Santa Fe Watershed Association received a very small EPA grant to green operations of 15 hotels here in Santa Fe, and had tremendous uptake. It's all the big hotels, La Fonda, El Dorado, etc. But what's happened from that is we're really realizing there's a lot of interest in creating a green business or a green certification program for Santa Fe. And working with Sustainable Santa Fe, working with Amanda Evans at Santa Fe Community College, and I'd love to invite you all to partner in that. Where it's nascent. The seed is just starting to kind of grow, but it would just be great to have I.A.I.A. involved in that. So. And who do I connect?
I was blown away with the what you're doing out there. It's so heartwarming to see so deep a change in our culture. And when you use the word consumer, we need a new word for consumer. Because I have a Funny Times cartoon with a great cartoonist who has the person shoving all kinds of things in his mouth, like planes and trains, and all kinds of things, and that's what I think of when it's consumer, and that our economic system's not on board. And so I just read a book that is going to transform the way we look at science and psychology. It's called Proving Heaven by Eben Alexander, MD. And he said in the beginning of the book he was a hard scientist, no soft stuff for him, until he got some kind of E. coli disease. And he was a neural surgeon, and he lost his brain for 4 days. And he was physically alive, but he went there to meet with God and the spirits. And so that has been, in Western culture, hard science doesn't believe in any of those things. And so he actually philosophically proves the existence of those spirits. And so that can be the transformation we need. And I, for a long time, have thought the corporate structure has no spiritual values. And so if Citizens United that's the law of the land, that corporations are persons. And so they're really actually psychopathic persons, because that's, in psychology, if you don't have moral values or moral sense, you're a psychopath. And so we need to start changing those things as well. But I really want to applaud what you're doing there. So blown away. It's just awesome what you're doing.
There's a campaign across the country for colleges to take their investments and divest from fossil fuel corporations. I don't know what I.A.I.A.'s investment portfolio is, but if you have endowments and you're invested in those companies, would you consider divesting? This week, Santa Fe Art Institute became one of the latest colleges to announce that they're divesting.
Yeah, Bonita actually, the student who wrote this, was taking a leadership, but I think that that's something that the student sustainability leaders are going to be looking into and taking a leadership role on. Do you guys want to say anything about it? Not yet. Okay. Yeah, so we are interested in that, and it's going to come from students.
Senator Worth has $1 million ask for a microgrid program at SFCC to create actual microgrids around not only electricity but thermal energy. So maybe that can create a bigger microgrid with the Santa Fe Community College, I.A.I.A, and the high school. You know, and really and truly go to total renewable energy. Good. Any questions? Any other? Is that, are we?
I think, isn't I.A.I. part of the new higher education consortium as well? So that could perhaps compound the work in some way. Also, I just wanted to say I think it's great that, you know, it wasn't so many years ago that artists in general making 3D art didn't give any consideration, or hardly any, to where their materials were coming from and how they may be poisoning themselves and others through their work. So I think it's a great thing that puts some consciousness into that.
We got another round of questions going here.
Hi, you started with the Declaration of Interdependence, and I'm wondering if you have been involved with some of the people writing ordinances at the moment. San Miguel County are working hard to ban fracking. There's a group working on ordinances for Santa Fe to present to both the city and the county. It seems like you've laid a foundation for a lot of work with ordinance, and the more grassroots ordinances are moving into the public domain, you know, to the councils and the counties, the more that this work will actually get more of attention from the public. I think that's very important.
Senator Cisneros from Taos is introducing a bill that would preempt any county authority to write any ordinance that regulates oil and gas. So Senator Cisneros, well, he's going to get his butt kicked on that one, because the counties are going to come in, and we already have a statement from Paul Gutierrez, the head of the New Mexico Association of Counties, saying this is absurd. Counties is where, you know, local government is where it really happens. So it's going to be a fascinating struggle. But I think Cisneros has already lost, but we'll see. And it points to that, Rafael, that, you know, he's trying to preempt all that authority from counties, and that's going to open that discussion up over there. So there's a lot of rights of nature ordinances that are beginning to go around now. And it seems like your connection with responsibility, it seems like if we give rights to nature, then we have to be responsible at that point.
I think that's something that we want to work with and learn more about. And our new class, the Global Climate Justice class, we're looking at the rights of nature movement on a global scale with native peoples in Ecuador and different countries in Bolivia and Bhutan and stuff. So that would be great to connect more with the local stuff going on and learn, get more involved.
And I would add to that, you know, our student body is extremely diverse, and we have students from Alaska and, you know, Hawaii, international students. It's open enrollment. We have students from South Africa, Japan. I mean, I don't think people sometimes understand the diversity of our community. And part of our mission is to empower creativity and leadership in Native arts and cultures. And part of our hope in this work is that the students return to their communities, wherever those communities may be, with these values, because even the economic systems in tribal communities are driven by the same sort of resource extraction as the dominant culture. So how, when communities are struggling economically, do you figure out the way to do it right? Do you figure out the way to do it that's going to be sustainable? And these are the questions we want our students to struggle with, so when they go back home, they can say, yeah, okay, if we allow this mining to continue, we can make X amount of money, but what if we do X instead, and begin to look at that as an economic driver in our community? So the same issues in the dominant culture and the tribal communities, and it's our hope for the students to connect the dots between the economic and the policy and the social and the environmental and the moral and the spiritual, and really make a holistic, maybe a new paradigm for public decision making. Because as you said, in our role in the world of public decision making, certain things are taken off the table because it's driven by hard science, quote unquote. So I think all of us here in this room understand what's at stake. and our interest working with young people who are going to go back to Alaska or Montana or New York upstate into the whatever their communities are, that they're going to go back with a sense of empowerment, because that's the mission, to empower. And it's our understanding that our students, whether they're going to be artists or cultural workers or politicians, whatever role they're going to have, that they're going to be empowered to ask good questions, think about things in a holistic way, and make good decisions for the future. So that's, when you're in education, you're always very future directed, because it's through the students that you imagine change can happen. So that's just a part of where we are. Sometimes I think we're not as connected to Santa Fe, even though we're here, because of our kind of the reach we have. But it's great to hear about the initiatives happening locally, and for us to come and speak to an organization like you that is very much involved in the local. So I want to thank all of you for sharing that and the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I just had one quick question in light of it. Was it 1 billion rising this week? And the fact that your statement of interdependence speaks of the earth as mother. If in your sustainability you look at the way we treat the earth and the way we treat women, and how we're all being raped. So.
Great question.
You don't have an answer.
Well, I think that's
it. She would be like, why did they hand me them?
I know that in the Indigenous studies classes, they look at that and Indigenous feminism topics, but we haven't looked at that so much in our group, but I know that there are classes at I.A.I.A that have been investigating.
I just see such a strong similarity in the way we treat the earth and the way we treat women.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You know the book Woman in Nature, the roaring inside her?
No, that one I haven't read.
You should, Susan Griffin. It's a beautiful, it illustrates that through time in a really powerful way. So just to say, maybe we can bring some of that book into our curriculum.
Yeah.
You're asking that question, made me think of that.